Hello everyone and welcome. Have you ever faced a problem so big your brain just short circuits? You run the numbers, you check the resources, you do the math again. And every time you reach the same conclusion, it is impossible. Maybe it's bills that don't match your income, a relationship that feels like a quiet civil war, a diagnosis you were not prepared to hear, or a dream so far out of reach it barely feels worth saying out loud anymore. Inside one of the most famous miracles in Scripture, there is a single sentence most people rush past. One sentence. If you catch it, it will change how you see every hard thing you are working through right now. Let's go to John chapter 6. 5,000 men, not counting women and children. A deserted hillside, empty stomachs, and one disciple staring at a problem with no human solution. Let's read it. John chapter 6, 4-6. Now the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was near. Then Jesus lifted up his eyes, and seeing a great multitude coming towards him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread that these may eat?" But this he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Before we move to the miracle, and yes, the miracle is coming, stop at verse 6. John, the narrator, leans in and whispers something directly to us. He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Jesus already knew. Before Philip answered, before Andrew found the boy, before a single loaf was lifted, Jesus was never confused, never calculating, never scrambling. That's not a side note. That's the point. John doesn't randomly mention Passover. For a Jewish reader, that word carries centuries of memory. Passover is the story of a people trapped between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea. No escape, no strategy, no backup plan, and God made a way where there wasn't one. Passover is the original impossible. John is signaling something. The God who split the sea is standing on this hillside. Pay attention. Now, here is the detail most people miss. Jesus doesn't address the group. He turns to Philip specifically, and that matters. Philip was from Bethsaida, the very region where this miracle happens. Jesus asked the local guy, the one who should know the markets, the vendors, the logistics. He goes to the expert. Why? Because God doesn't only test us where we feel weak. Often he tests us where we feel strongest. He asked the financially trained person about the money problem, the counselor about the fractured relationship, the capable parents about the rebellious child, the ministry leader about the crisis. He brings us to the edge of our competence, not to humiliate us, but to show us the limit of it, because the moment you reach the end of your ability is the moment you finally look up. The precise moment you stop trusting your expertise and start trusting Him. So, what do you do with this? Two things, keep them simple. First, when you hit the wall, go back to verse 6. Not to the miracle, not yet. Go to the sentence before it. He himself knew what he would do. Whatever you are facing right now, the medical report, the fracture marriage, the business uncertainty, the calling that feels stored. It is not new information to him. He is not pacing heaven. The test is not for his benefit. It's for yours. When you are in the middle of how in the world is this going to work out moment, whisper John 6:6 to yourself. He already knows what he will do. The test is not for God to figure it out. It's for you to trust him through it. He let us reach the end of our hope because that's when we finally stop staring at our hands and start looking at his. Second, bring what you have. A few verses later, Andrew finds a boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he says almost apologetically, "But what are they among so many?" I love that line because it sounds like us. It's not enough. It's lovably small. But he brings it anyway. And that's what Jesus multiplies. You don't need more faith. You need surrendered faith. You don't need better resources. You need open hands. Philip saw a sea of need. Andrew saw a small lunch. Jesus saw provision. Your math is incomplete if God isn't in the equation. Offer him what you actually have, your time, your skill, your small obedience, your trembling prayer. And let him decide what it becomes. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by something impossible, take a breath. You may not be being punished. You may be being tested, prepared, stretched into trust. When Jesus asked the hard question, "How are you doing to fix this?" it's not because he needed an answer. It's because he wants us to say, "I can't, but you can." If this gave you a new lens on a familiar story, hit like so more people can find it. Subscribe if you want to work verse by verse through the gospel together. And tell me in the comments, what's the impossible thing you are handing over today? I will see you in the next one.